No one can solve this mystery in Siberia. In its frozen depths, guardian monks protect secrets that could rewrite entire pages of world history. Today, you will meet some scary figures that exist in Siberia and some other places that will shock you. Curious? Join us and let's go. Number 15. The Last Hermit of Siberia. Deep in the Siberian taiga, a story of survival and faith has been unfolding for more than 70 years. Agafia Lykova, the last surviving member of a family that chose total isolation in 1936, represents one of the most extraordinary cases of hermit life in the modern world. The Lykovs fled religious persecution during the Soviet regime, settling in a region so remote that it was only discovered by geologists in 1978. The family built their own home more than 240 kilometers from the nearest civilization, developing unique survival techniques. Agafia learned from a young age to grow food in an extremely harsh climate, raise goats, hunt, and preserve food for the long Siberian winters. Even after losing her entire family to disease and old age, she remained steadfast in her religious convictions and her traditional way of life. Today, at 80 years old, she maintains much the same lifestyle as her ancestors, using only a satellite phone for extreme emergencies. Number 14. The Immortal Lama of Siberia. In icy Siberia, an extraordinary event in 1927 left the scientific world stunned. Dashi Dorjo Itigilov, the spiritual leader of Russian Buddhists, announced his own death and made an unusual request. He wanted his followers to visit him 30 years later. After entering deep meditation in the lotus position, he left this world. Over the following decades, the Soviet regime tried to eradicate Buddhist traditions from the region, but failed to crush the people's faith. When the appointed time came, his followers discovered something astonishing. Itidilov's body remained perfectly preserved, still in the same position. They kept this secret for years, until the young Lama Bimba Dorjiev decided to reveal the truth to the world. The body was taken to the monastery, where it remains to this day, protected by locked doors. As scientists search for explanations for this unique phenomenon, thousands of people are drawn to this extraordinary story that defies our understanding. Number 13. The Hidden Power of Rasputin. Deep in Siberia, one of the most enigmatic characters in Russian history was born. Gregory Rasputin rose from a small village in 1869 to become a figure who would shake the foundations of the Russian Empire. His journey began at the age of 18, when he abandoned his family after serious accusations and wandered through Siberian monasteries, where he claimed to have awakened extraordinary mystical powers. By 1905, his fame had reached Petrograd, where his supposed healing abilities led him straight to the heart of Russian power, the imperial family. Rasputin achieved something that modern doctors could not. He eased the suffering of the young Prince Alexei, who suffered from hemophilia. His power over the imperial family grew exponentially, but his scandalous behavior, involving drinking and affairs, made him many enemies. His violent death in 1916 was as mysterious as his life. Poison, gunshots, and drowning were all needed to silence him. Before he died, he left a dark prophecy that came true. The fall of the Romanov family would soon happen. I have a question for you. First, I'd like to tell you that it's possible to keep up with the biggest curiosities of our world every day. But for that, you need to be subscribed to our channel. So, have you subscribed yet? If not, take the opportunity to subscribe now. Now that you've done that, let's go. Number 12. The Monks of the Great Scheme. At the top of the Orthodox monastic hierarchy is a special group of monks who have achieved the highest level of spiritual dedication, the Great Schema monks. This order, with over 1,500 years of history, represents the pinnacle of Orthodox monastic life. The path to becoming a Great Schema monk is extremely rigorous, passing through 3 distinct levels: novice, small schema, and finally the Great Schema. These monks live in almost total seclusion, dedicating themselves to intense spiritual practices such as prolonged fasting and constant prayer. Their black robes, known as panels, are decorated with symbols that represent their spiritual journey. Each element has a profound meaning related to the transformation of the soul. They practice what they call death to the world, completely renouncing secular life in order to seek a deeper connection with the divine. Number 11. The Tuvinian Shamans. In the remote mountains of Siberia, the Tuvinians preserve one of the oldest shamanic traditions in the world. These extraordinary people with fewer than 40 families living off reindeer herding, maintain a deep connection with the spiritual world. In the taiga region, their traditional tents called yurts house ancient rituals that survived Soviet repression. Tuvinian shamans, both men and women, enter altered states of consciousness to communicate with spirits, cure illnesses, predict the future, and ward off negative energies. Their practices are passed down through the generations, always in the Tuvinian language, considered sacred during rituals. For these people, each element of nature has its own soul, and shamans function as intermediaries between the material and spiritual worlds, making offerings and maintaining balance between these two dimensions. Number 10. The Old Believers of Russia. In 17th century Russia, a quiet revolution shook the foundations of the Orthodox Church. The Old Believers emerged as a group that refused to accept changes imposed by Patriarch Nikon on traditional religious rituals. Nikon attempted to bring the Russian Church into line with Greek practices, changing everything from the way the sign of the cross to the clergy's attire. Millions of believers rejected these changes, clinging to the rituals practiced since Russia's conversion to Christianity in 988. Persecution was brutal. Many leaders, including Archpriest Avakum, were executed for opposing the reforms. The survivors fled to remote regions of Siberia, where they created isolated communities. They divided into two main groups: the Popovtsi, who retained priests, and the Bezpopovtsi, who abandoned almost all sacraments. In 1971, after centuries of conflict, the Russian Orthodox Church finally lifted the excommunication of the Old Believers. Number 9. The Shamans of Lake Baikal. On the shores of the world's deepest lake, a mystical tradition has survived for millennia. The Buryats, the indigenous people of the Lake Baikal region, maintain a rich shamanic tradition that is intertwined with elements of Orthodox Christianity. One of the guardians of these traditions says that the lake is not just a body of water, it is a living entity that provides physical and spiritual sustenance for his people. Buryat shamans believe that certain rock formations, such as the famous Shaman Rock, are portals to the spirit world. Even with modernization, many locals still respect the ancient shamanic rules, avoiding certain areas considered sacred and seeking guidance from shamans on important matters. Number 8. The Emperor Who Became a Monk. Deep in the heart of frozen Siberia, a peculiar story came to life when a man named Fyodor Kuzmich mysteriously appeared in the city of Tomsk in 1837. What no one knew was that this supposed wandering monk might actually be Emperor Alexander I himself, who had supposedly died years earlier. Locals were impressed by his refined manners and intimate knowledge of court life. Graphology expert Sana Simonova discovered striking similarities between the handwriting of the emperor and the monk, including unique details that could only belong to the same person. Among Fyodor's belongings, they found a message coded with the initials AP, further fueling speculation about his true identity. The mysterious monk lived in Tomsk until 1864, maintaining a demeanor that suggested noble origins. He spoke fluent French, demonstrated a deep knowledge of historical events at court, and maintained an aristocratic bearing that intrigued everyone around him. Number 6. The Guru of the Sacred Mountains. Padmasambhava, known as Guru Rinpoche, brought a spiritual revolution to medieval Tibet. In the 8th century, this Indian tantric master performed extraordinary feats that forever changed the religious landscape of the roof of the world. His greatest achievement was the construction of Samye Monastery, Tibet's first Buddhist temple. Stories of his mystical powers include the ability to tame local spirits and hide secret teachings, called termas, to be discovered at the right time by seekers of the future. His influence was so profound that the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism considers him a manifestation of the Buddha himself. Padmasambhava's teachings combine oral traditions with hidden treasures, forming a unique system of spiritual transmission that lives on in Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, and beyond. Number 5. The Arctic Nights. In the coldest part of Siberia, where the world seems to end, live the Chukchi, a people who put on a show of resilience. There are about 16,000 people who have turned the impossible into possible, living comfortably where most people wouldn't even be able to spend a day. It's like a group divided into two teams. There are the people who take care of reindeer in the interior, the Chukchi of the reindeer, and the people who live on the coast hunting sea animals, the Chukchi of the sea. The most incredible thing? They are distant cousins of the native peoples of the Americas and the Ainu of Japan. In the 1600s, when the Russians tried to dominate the region, the Chukchi showed that it wasn't quite like that. They managed to maintain their independence and even chose how much tax they wanted to pay. Like those friends who don't accept pressure from anyone. While many people tried to force Christianity on them, the Chukchi remained firm in their ancient beliefs, which are still alive today. Number 4. The mystery of the Nenets monks. Under the icy skies of the Russian Arctic, the Nenets maintain one of the world's most extraordinary shamanic traditions. With a population of nearly 50,000, these people maintain a deep connection with reindeer, considered sacred animals in their culture. What is most fascinating is how they manage to survive in the extreme temperatures of the Yamal Peninsula, where they have developed unique techniques over thousands of years. Nenets shamans are masters at interpreting the signs of nature, using reindeer not only as a source of food and shelter, but also as spiritual guides on their mystical journeys. Despite pressure from oil companies and the government, the Nenets continue to practice their ancient rituals, blending elements of traditional shamanism with modern adaptations. The Nenets language, divided into two main dialects, tundra and forest, carries in its words the secrets of ancient wisdom. Number 3. The masters of spiritual dance. At the edge of the world, where the ice meets the sky, Evenki shamans erect their sacred tents, the yangas. Remember those camping houses? Well, they're 1,000 times more special. Made from tree bark and animal skins, these tents become true portals to the spirit world. In the center, a fire sends its smoke straight to the sky through a hole in the top, like a direct telephone line to the spirit world. It's cool to know that the very word shaman was born from these people. Evenki shamans are like astronauts of the soul. They say they can make their energy travel through the universe, visiting both the world above and the world below. Around the tents, you'll find tall poles covered in drawings of birds, animals, and fish. Number 2. Whirling dervishes. In the Sufi tradition, dervishes have transformed the act of whirling into a moving meditation that challenges our understanding of balance and physical endurance. Dressed in their characteristic white skirts that open like flowers as they spin, these mystical dancers create a visual spectacle that represents the dance of the planets around the sun. Most fascinating is the ability of these dancers to maintain continuous rotations for prolonged periods without experiencing dizziness. Their precise and controlled movements, combined with their upright posture and outstretched arms, create an image that seems to defy the basic laws of physics and human balance. Number 1. The shaman of the Altai spirits. Deep in the Altai mountains, every stone tells a magical story. A respected local elder holds the secrets of Siberia's oldest ceremonies. In her hands, the shamanic drum comes to life, creating bridges between the world of the living and the realm of the spirits. Local tradition teaches that every mountain, rock, and blade of grass has its own soul. Nomadic communities perform special rituals during their summer migrations, following a lunar calendar that has existed for millennia. Shamans lead these ceremonies, asking the spirits for protection to ensure the survival of their herds and the safety of their journeys. Ancient rock carvings mark sacred sites, telling stories of their ancestors through mysterious symbols. Young leaders have a crucial role to play in keeping these customs alive, protecting not only the traditions but also the sacred sites that hold the memory of their people. And since you like mysteries in Russia, have you ever wondered what would happen if alien sightings existed in Russia? Well, that happened in this video that is appearing on the screen, so take advantage of it now and click on it. Well, that's it, and until next time, curious one.